the way that I'm looking at it is gender discrimination is stopping people from having some opportunities because of their gender, and gender-based violence is assessing violence on these people because of their gender. So I think they they enable different things, or they manifest in different ways, but they're closely linked. And I think that in a culture where there is gender discrimination, gender-based violence is most likely to be prominent because it's just been enabled by the culture and the discrimination itself. Um, I'm not. Someone is asking if I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sharing my screen, so we're just having a conversations and answering questions that people might have. So there is no presentation. I see a question from Andrew who said, while I do not have question with your definition, I am interested in a definition that incorporates AI, as this is the focus of the meeting. So you can give a definition that is all inclusive. Thank you for that, Andrew. My definition of TFGBV did not include AI, but I think that while it did not say AI explicitly, I do believe that AI is a digital tool. So AI is incorporated in that. But if you want to include the forms of GBV that are facilitated by AI, you could have fake images, deep fake videos, or impersonating somebody by faking their voice or other kinds of stuff that are using AI to perpetrate gender-based violence acts. I hope that answers your question, Andrew. Um, I see Absa, a question from Absa that says, if a cultural practice harms women but is widely accepted in society, should it still be called gender-based violence? That is a very interesting question, and I would like to have anybody who is willing to weigh in on this, but I'm going to give my take, which is that um, I think that harm still remain harm even if it's accepted or not. And I think that harm, it is probably the question here would probably be, how do you define harm if it's accepted by society? But I think that harm is defined by the end result that it has, that regardless of it being accepted or not accepted, if the result of such and such action is still detrimental to a human being, I would still consider it harm, even if the society at large accepts it or um, does not have any ways to stop it yet. So I think that just because the society accepts it, the people who do realize that it is harm should fight against that culture instead of also letting it just be the norm. I'm wondering if there's anybody who has anything to say about this, who wants to weigh in.
Yes, madam. I see Risa and Egia with the raised their hands for so long time. So can we give just time to ask all to tell what they have wanted?
Yes. Lisa Benson, you can go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. On my side, I just wanted to add upon the definition, as in the difference between gender based violence and gender discrimination. As in,
Yes.
basically, gender discrimination deals with unfairness or inequality done to someone just because of their gender. But gender based violence includes harm, as in a harm done to someone because of his or her gender. So it means that gender based discrimination can at some points become gender based violence once the unfairness done to a person includes violence or harm done to someone. So that I just want to add upon that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lisa. That was very helpful. I think next was a Gabo. Aaron, if you also want to unmute yourself.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron from Uganda.
Thank you.
So, mine is just a take on the previous question, which was question of and GBV, whereby the person was talking about it being considered as the harmful deed. Now, here in Uganda, there is a tribe of It's in eastern Uganda. I'm just forgetting them. But those days, practice what they call female genital mutilation. I don't know that it is still happening, but that was part of culture, removing genitals of that. But they would consider it as culture, and weirdly, women would go there and would practice it. Others would obviously die because they would lose a lot of blood. And remember that is culture, and at the end of the day, women were also basically suffering. So at the end of the day, it's also something hard to describe as GBV because literally everyone in that area was accepting it, though there's some who would obviously die because of a lot of loss of blood. So with my take, I would accept actually female genital mutilation whatsoever. But that's what I actually saw in my country.
Thank you for that example. I think it does capture the idea that harm still remains harm, even if it's widely accepted. Um, I think Mbeke also had his hands raised up. If you want to mute yourself.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Beke from Nigeria. Yes, I love the way you're making the class interactive. But then I believe you have a lot for us, and we are just at the definition. I just wish to say that maybe if we can proceed with what we have for us, and maybe at the end, people can then come up with their questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbeke. The reason why I'm making it interactive is that I want people to be able to. I want the conversation to be a everybody conversation instead of me just giving knowledge as if I was a holder of knowledge. So that's the reason why I'm making the conversation interactive. And we're going to move on from the definition into other topics that we also would like to talk about. But yes, thank you for that. And I hope that this clarifies your concern. Um, I was seeing that I'm seeing that somebody has mentioned legal policies and frameworks addressing gender violence, especially those associated with social media in Africa, especially Nigerian context. I see that this question is more so linked towards the solutions that are being put in place to address this issue. So I think we can move our conversation from the definition to the solutions that we think could be implemented or the solutions that have already been implemented. And to answer that question, I do not have specific knowledge of how different countries are targeting this issue. I do know that there are some organisms such as the UN and NGOs, probably in different countries, that have been making themselves available to victims, especially to be a space where victims can report, victims can seek help. So I think that these kind of solutions are being made available for people, but I do not have a specific knowledge of what they look like in different contexts in different places. So if people have knowledge in their own specific countries of the kind of resources that are being made available for victims to report and to seek support, I would like them to I would like you to drop it in the comments so that everybody could um, have access to those resources as well. And that you can keep dropping those resources as we go through the conversation, but I'll keep going in the questions that are here. So I see a question. Somebody says, I would like to ask about the vulnerability of app data. To make an example, how can periods, pregnancy trackers, and mental health apps better protect sensitive user data from being weaponized by abusers or stalkers? Not so long ago, the Flow app that automatically transmitted users' intimate health data, including pregnancy, to third party advertising. I think that to answer that question, I think it will come down to the kind of laws that are being put in place in different countries and by different organisms such as the UN and the ones that are specializing in health. I do not have any specific work, any specific ways that platforms can do so, but I think that enforcing laws, which enforcing laws would need that platform creators, the people that are responsible for platforms have a stronger privacy policies. And I think these laws can only be enforced when people like us advocate for this kind of things that are happening and for these issues. When we advocate and we demand accountability, those make the laws be passed because we're raising the conversation and we're raising the issue so that the laws will be passed to protect the users. But yes, that's what I would answer to that question. If anybody else has anything to add, that will also be very welcome to that question. That's a very good question. Thank you for that. That was a question from Ayanda Diamimi. I'm going to keep going if nobody has anything to add to that question. The next one says, it's a question from Bonifacius. He says, has two questions. He says, how can technology companies and governments better protect people from online GBV while still respecting freedom of expression? Yes, again, this is similar to the previous question. I do not have frameworks in my mind on how this is supposed to be done. But what I do believe is that protecting people should not take away from their freedom of expressing themselves, which could be the line could be easily blurred, especially when it comes to governments and restricting some comments on technology platforms or social media platforms. And I think it boils down to us as users advocating and demanding responsibility, because I think that the people that are responsible and the people that are in power can make decisions that may sometimes harm people. But the ways that I have seen, at least what I've seen from humanity as a whole and the ways that we have evolved, is that it always takes people being willing to call out the bad and being able to call out the things that are harming others so that the change would be made. And that is always a process of learning and implementing and improving, that we have to be willing to always be pushing for better, always be pushing for more. The next question is, how do we effectively support victims when abusive content has already been shared widely and is difficult to remove? I think that's also a very good question. I think one of the first things that is needed in these kind of cases is to show support at the personal level and making spaces for the person to be safe, to be seen, to talk about what they're going through, and to share any things that may be coming to their mind. And obviously, and not obviously, but most importantly, not blaming the victim for the things that have been happening, but instead providing a support space for them to be able to share their concerns, share their feelings, and maybe brainstorming on the solutions that could be made. I think on the question of taking it down, the things that I do know that could help in removing the content, even though it might be hard, it might not be 100% effective, are tools such as Take It Down, I believe are useful for minors that are being victim of these things, and some other ones are also Stop Non-Consensual Image Abuse, which is stopncii.org website, that are helpful in at least reducing the spread of these kind of images. And if these have not been successful, I think definitely trying to help the person in the mental state, or recommending them to any certified mental health or social workers that can help them process this event. I hope that I'm answering the questions. I also see some hands that have been raised. If Afra Tariq, I hope I'm saying the word correctly, but you can unmute yourself also and contribute.
Hello everyone, my name is Afra Tariq. I'm from Sudan. I
Thank
have
you.
a question.
Okay.
Uh, as we know, JBV is one of the biggest problem in our society.
Mm-hmm.
So we can add some keywords for AI to detect if this female or male in a great problem or not. But we have some problem when we can reach the network access. What about the people who don't have a network or they do not have a smartphone?
Is your question about how do we provide support to people who may not have access to network?
Yes. So can can uh, can we make some SMS to send to tell other people this person is a great problem?
Um, I wonder if I'm understanding your question. You're asking if we can make some SMS messages to send to people, but what exactly is the information that you would like to send to people? I did not hear that correctly.
We have a digital space, okay?
Yes.
Um, in some people, as in Sudan, for example, we now I can reach the network access, and if I'm in harassment or victims or any other things, I can raise my phone and send in any one of social media. I'm getting harassment by someone. But
Mhm.
what about people they do not have a network access, but they can reach only SMS? Just
Okay, thank you for that question. I think that this is also a question of our society and our governments putting in place multiple ways for people to seek support. And I think that maybe even hospitals or some of the NGOs that we mentioned earlier that could work in this sector could have phone numbers that could be called or reached. I think some countries have green phone numbers that you can call when you're faced with gender based violence, either physical or online, that you can reach to, that is not necessarily on social media or using digital platforms such as social media or the internet. But again, it comes down to individual countries and individual societies implementing those supports that are reaching the as many people as possible. And it could be SMS, it could be messages, it could also be having dedicated places in communities that have trained professionals that can help people and support people through this kind of situations. I hope that I'm answering your question. And I'm glad that you brought up the SMS thing. And I'm encouraging people that even as we're having these conversations, that it shouldn't be that we're expecting help to come from the government or the institution. But I also want to encourage everybody who's in this group chat to start thinking in this call, to start thinking about the ways that they themselves could also help the people that are around them, the initiatives that they could start that could be helpful for the people, because the young people see the problem, we see the people that are being affected, and that as we see the problems, we can also come up with solutions for them. I see a question that says, I think gender-based discrimination can be among the example of gender-based violence. May you clarify about this? I think we addressed this question earlier, and one participant talked about how gender-based discrimination can become gender-based violence, but it's not necessarily the same thing. Somebody is asking, somebody saying, I want us to think, are we not, I got a question from Anesu, and I think it's talking about how we are being proactive about GBV, and I don't think I'm understanding that question clearly, but if Anesu wants to unmute themselves and share what the question exactly is about. But in the meantime, I'm going to look at the people who have their hands raised. I see Amira who has her hand raised. Do you want to unmute yourself and contribute?
Yes, thank you, Grace. I was reflecting on when we were talking about the solutions, and I noticed in the past that a lot of the adopted solutions were, especially if we count on government, are most of the time punitive or punitivist, reactive, or result to banning or censorship. And we've noticed that those are not necessarily how do I say, that effective. I know it gets like a lot of how do I say, I mean, it gets a lot of traction, but it's very short-termed, and people feel like they are being taken seriously. But at the end of the day, the problem is still international. It's not just cultural. The root is still here, and GBV is still present. So I think instead, and I really agree with what you said, Grace, on us being proactive and organizing collectively and pushing for other types of solutions, like investing on education, prevention, and maybe providing more support for survivors and victims. Yeah, let's be honest, like companies, most of them are foreign and focus on profit, and governments usually use the shortcut of punitivism, you know? So at the end of the day, the root problem is still here, and technology is just a tool. So I was wondering if we can all reflect on what we can do as like collectives in Africa to push for other types of preventive solutions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Amira. And I think it is very important for us to focus our energy in preventing the harm instead of trying to undo it when it has already happened. And yes, it could have a space for participants to share the ideas that they may be having about how they can solve these things. And if even possible, at the end of the call, I don't know if we can have breakout rooms, but we could have people from the same countries have space to brainstorm about the ways that this issue is being manifested in their own countries and the solutions that they see could happen and that they could start implementing right now to help prevent those things. And some ideas that I do have, which I'm sure we have heard about before, is definitely education and awareness raising about the issue, which is something that we're doing right here, raising awareness about this issue, teaching people what a GBV looks like and the harm that is being caused by it, and showing people that this issue is very serious and that it actually destroys people's lives, are some of the things that we can do as a young generation to at least work towards reducing this harm. But definitely, if we could have at the end of the meeting, if we could have space for people from different countries to come together and to brainstorm on ideas and encourage each other as well. I still see Mbeke's hand raised. Do did you want to contribute?
Maybe it's the former hand I raised earlier.
Oh, okay. I see the other hand that is raised is Lu Babatu.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Lubabas Mohammed Yao from Nigeria. I'm a physiotherapist. So I want to contribute on the question we talk about doing taking proactive steps. Maybe after the gender-based violence have already happened. I think even if it is online, it is good that we report it. Let the world, let digital space see that the person is being punished. Let a legal action be taken. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for saying that. It is very important for victims to be empowered to report and to speak up on the issue so that the perpetrators are not being covered and that they are not encouraged to keep doing the harm to other people. That I agree with that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I also see Paul Mbinda. If you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I wanted to add on something that you had said. You talked about collective responsibility, but largely as a continent or as a nation. But I would think that it would be better if we lowered it to the community level, whereby our communities would be able to understand what is online GBV, how it is manifested, and how to prevent it, and even how to punish it, whereby we would equip the communities themselves and not merely the governments and depending on the governments to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think that is, yes, very useful because I think we mentioned earlier that GBV is um, coming from the cultures that we are living in and the people. It's not just the people that are online are not made up. They're the people that we have in our communities that are around us. And finding proactive initiative that address the issue at the community level, at the cultural level, would probably yield a lot of good results. I also see Haya Jalal. We're going to end the meeting soon, so we're probably going to have a few more people chime in, and then we're going to end the meeting. But Haya, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I am Haya Galal from Egypt, and I just wanted to add an extra point besides punishment to the person who misused the social media, which is getting the right back to the person that got harmed. Like, it is not enough to send that person into jail or just to punish them, but also we have to give some sort of financial or giving the right back to the person who got harmed somehow, either financially or psychologically. They carry the responsibility for their harm and
Hmm.
not only be punished. You got my point?
Yes, thank you for that, Hire. I think what you're talking about is reparation for people who have been victimized and ensuring that the things that they have lost because of this harm would be brought back to them. And I think that is very necessary and ensuring that the people are not defined by the harm that has been caused to them, but that they do have the opportunity to bounce back and to continue their lives in a way that they find fulfilling, which is very necessary as well.
Thank you.
Um,
That's it.
I see the one I see from Babatunde again who said people who do not have a phone can still, or that's answering to the question that was posed earlier. Thank you for that. Um, yes, I see. I see that people were sharing the ideas in the group chat they're sharing resources as well. Thank you so much for doing that. That's very helpful. I'm wondering, Mr. Moderator, I'm wondering if there is a way, as we said earlier, to have breakout rooms to end the meeting where people from the same country would be able to join and maybe have conversations on the kind of ideas that they have that could be implemented in their own countries at the grassroots level.
Okay, thank you, Madam Damizwar. I think so many people drop here their thoughts about what we have been discussing. So
Mm.
far, so good. I see Joyce Merit Azibichechi. Sorry if I mentioned your name wrong. She says, good evening. We have been mostly talking about salvaging GBV after it has happened, but some people might have gone through it and do not have a voice to speak up what they can. I think she talks about that. I see also a Fulteke. Well experienced, Mr. Igabo. You do have a point there. I see so many people dropping their thoughts on what we've been discussing. I see Babatunde has dropped the thoughts. I think you have read it. I think this shows the grassroots on discussions and what they participate on this meeting today. I think the meeting goes well and so delicious. You have been making it well as a speaker, and we are so thankful for today's session. You made it very well and you made it very good. I see Egabo Aaron said, hello, Efuteke at American. That is quite good question. In my opinion, I believe that we should start with what we can control, things such as publicity through social medias, radios, TVs, schools, and even feasible legal frameworks to advocate for the fight against GBV, because entirely banning those social media platforms to avert GBV won't end it. It will just be brewing it to later affect of the citizens. I think this was the question asked by Efoteke when she raised her hand. I think Egabo Aaron answered it. So I see the participation of the participants in the topic. So I just ask you to finalize the topic discussion you have been starting, and other things will go to follow.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to have a quick conclusion. I'm going to try to bring in all the things that we have discussed into maybe an attempted summary. I think we, through our conversation, we have defined, or we have tried to come to a common definition of what GBV is, which is violence towards people based on their gender, and especially technology facilitated GBV that is amplified, facilitated by um, digital tools, either AI or just the social platforms that we are used to. And we also talked about the reality that GBV is uh, affecting both genders, although the female gender is most predominantly affected by this. And we also talked about how GBV is often a result, not often, is the result of the culture that we already have in the physical space. That online GBV is not just made up or just coming from somewhere, but is the result of the culture that people live in, or the things that they think and that they're sharing through social media. And this leads us to what we have been talking about of the need of having initiative and resources that are addressing the root cause, that are grassroots, that are trying to change the culture, that are educating the people about what GBV is, about how to respond to it, and about how to reduce a suspension. And we also talked about how although our culture may normalize GBV, it still is harm because the people are being victim of it are still experiencing the harm, and just because it's normalized does not negate the fact that people are being negatively affected by it. And we also did talk about the need for us as a generation to advocate advocate for the change in the governments and the organizations that are responsible for deploying the digital tools that we use today, but that our voice does matter and that we can create change by the efforts that we put in. And the change that we see today have been produced by people advocating and people pushing for change and for a better future for all of us. So I hope that at the end of this meeting, not only did we learn more from other Africans about this issue, but that we are also encouraged to create and to start initiatives that are going to help the common goods, that are going to help the people who are currently experiencing GBV or maybe prevent it from going even further. As we talked about, prevention is necessary, not just response, but prevention. So I'm very grateful for all the people who have participated in this call, who have shared their thoughts, who have asked their questions. All of these were very helpful in this conversation being nourishing and informative for all of us. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be speaking here today and for the people that I met and I could talk to. Yes.
Thank you so much, Madam Disrama, for that powerful and deep insightful presentation. I think everyone got the delicious discussion and knew whatever he or she did not know before. We will share the thoughts of everyone. You just allow the participation of every participant with you. I think that was really so good for participation between you, the speaker, and all the participants that were listening to you. Thank you for the participant too for making this crucial, and you have just made the maximum participation in this. I'm really thankful for you all, but much thanks to Madam Disrama for that powerful presentation of just been made. You have given us all a lot to reflect on regarding how we protect and uplift girls in empowerment and equity. That's real good and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Madam. We are real thankful for this today.
Thank you.
Okay.
If it is possible for everybody to also turn on their camera so the moderator can take a screenshot to
Yeah,
commemorate this
that
beautiful
that would be
conversation.
good. That would be good for the. Do you hear me? Sh-
Yes.
I just want everybody to turn on the camera so that we just make a screenshot for memory.
Fortunately, it's night here, and there's no light. So,
All right.
For those who are in just
Can you
good
see us?
location, it's not a must, but for those who are in good location. Okay, thank
Is it okay?
yes.
Can you see us? Hmm? Hello? Hello, Mrs. Abdulrazak.
Yes, I think I got it ready.
Can you see us?
Yes,
You said? I
I
said, can you see
said
us?
that. Wait, what are you saying? Yeah, I
Can
see
you
you.
see
I
us?
see you.
All right.
Not us who don't have lights around us.
Okay, that's good. I got the screenshot ready. Thank you, Madam Dazimai. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for what you've delivered to us. Thank you for maximum participation and your contribution towards this gender issue. And we are really glad having you today.
Thank you, everybody. Hope everybody has a good evening. And
Okay, you too.
yes.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, I think our our Zoom meeting goes to an end. I think we have learned a lot so far. We have learned good things and things we didn't know maybe before. And we have discussed very well with Madam Dazimwai on giving us all the knowledges from GBV. So I think there is a registration attendance link. I think the last question asks you more about what you have gained today. So I think from what Madam Dazimwai has delivered today, I think you'll get something good to answer in what you have taken today. I think the meeting was very, very, very delicious, and everyone has understood all things about the GBV. That's real good, and we really appreciate all of you have attended here. And let's welcome you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Good evening once again.